Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Here to Help podcast from SJOG, a suicide prevention project among autistic individuals and people who have learning disabilities. We co-design practical tools with autistic people in families, toolkits, training, and drop-ins so day-to-day life gets easier and safer. I'm Meryem, service manager, and I would like to introduce our guests.
So I'm Jane. I am a mum to an autistic young adult and recently diagnosed with autism myself.
Yes, and we have Officer.
I'm Cheryl and Project Officer for Here to Help.
Thank you very much. So Jane, many adults reach diagnosis later in life after years of masking and questions. To set the context, our project launch, there were around 163,000 suspected autism referrals open in 13 weeks plus without a care contact. So delays are quite common when we are looking, and these numbers are quite high. How did your own late diagnosis journey begin, and how did finally getting language for it change day-to-day life for you?
It was a long process. My son was diagnosed with dyspraxia very young. But again, I thought, well, he's just like me. He's clumsy, walks into tables, door frames, beds, everything. Both of us constantly covered in bruises. So he was late. I think he was in primary school when he got diagnosed with that. He had issues with his mental health when he transitioned to secondary school. Really, really difficult time. He started accessing CAMS and they suggested that he showed signs of traits of autism. He didn't actually get his diagnosis until he was 18. But again, people said to me, why was he so late diagnosed? And it was, again, because he's just like me. You know, he's a sensitive little soul who, you know, he dances to the beat of his own drum, and he's just like his mum. So that was kind of the first. It kind of fell together a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. It wasn't that one thing. There was another thing. My husband helped me out at work one day. And afterwards, when we were going home, he said, "Oh, you put on a good show. Don't you?" And I was really proud of that. I was like, yeah, I do. I come across as, a forthright, confident human being. And it wasn't until later that I learned about masking. I just assumed that everybody did that they pretended to be a character that was confident and approaches people with ease, sense of humor, all of that stuff. I thought that's what everyone did. And then I think the final piece was my daughter worked for a company and her mentor had disclosed to Caitlin that he was autistic and that he'd had severe burnout at work. I'd never heard of burnout. I thought that's what happened to bankers when, financial crashes, that sort of thing. And it wasn't until I thought, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety in childhood and school phobia, but my symptoms didn't quite match up to the footprint of depression. I was still able to eat and sleep. I just couldn't engage in conversation. I couldn't cope with the stresses of normal life. I very much became reclusive in the house, keeping myself to myself. Even going to a shop was too much. And I thought, maybe it's burnout. So that's when I decided. And I discussed it with my son first because I didn't want to take anything away from him. I didn't want him thinking, oh, well, you've got a diagnosis, so now I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and get one. It was like, I'd be really interested to find out if I am autistic, and if it would make so much sense and it would be a huge weight off my shoulders. So yeah, that's how I started the diagnosis journey.
Was it a weight off your shoulders, Jane, when you received the diagnosis?
It's bittersweet. I thought it would be, but equally, I'm now stuck with the dilemma because, I work for a local authority. I manage a team of people, and I don't know whether I will ever get to a point where I am able to unmask. Because in a job like mine, you've got to perform to a certain standard. You've got to be able to line manage people, to run services, to lead meetings. And so I'm kind of, it's very early stages. I was only diagnosed in June, so I'm still, we're 2 months on. I'm still processing it. But whether I will ever get to a stage where I can be myself in the role that I'm in, I'm unsure.
That was really good, like kind of an overview, I think, how it goes and how it's initiated. And how was the process when you were getting diagnosed?
Thoroughly miserable. My visit to the GP, given that it was 3 years ago, so this is not way back in the day, this was 3 years ago, my GP actually said to me, but why bother at your age? What difference is it going to make? You're going to get a diagnosis. It's not like, you're going to then have support to, you can't change that. And I was a bit taken aback. And again, I think it's a standard response from neurotypical people, that, and my response was, I am aware of that. My son's diagnosed. He's involved in services, but I've had to fight for those services. It's taken a long time to find the right fit for him. I'm aware that it's not going to fix me, but maybe I'll be kinder to myself. And again, she used the term that, oh, we're all on the spectrum somewhere, and I do certain things, and I think, oh, that's an autistic trait. And it was difficult because I felt really, I can't even describe the word for it. It was so patronizing.
Really unseen.
That it was like, and I really had to, it was a 10-minute appointment. I stayed on and I said, no, I understand your point of view, but I want to be referred for a diagnosis. Went for my initial assessment during that conversation. There were things that I hadn't put 2 and 2 together. They asked me about school life, and I was explaining my school life, and I was diagnosed with school phobia. And I said, but things really fell apart when I went to secondary school. And it was that click that I'm describing my son. I'd never put the 2 things together. I thought mine was social anxiety. And they put me forward to the list. They said that, I met the criteria, and they said it would be a 2-year wait. So I rang up at the 1-year mark just to check to see where if they could tell me where I was on the list. They said they couldn't, that I could keep checking. I rang back at the 2-year mark, and I was told, no, who told you it was a 2-year wait? That, they shouldn't have told you that. It's 3 years. And so then I got to the 3-year point, and that was in April of this year. And I called up and I had the same conversation again. Oh, who told you it was 3 waits? The 3 years wait. It's 4 years minimum. And I sat and sobbed. It was just like the goalpost keeps being changed, and I kept being told that, no, I don't know who told you that. They shouldn't have told you that. We've got extreme. And my question to them was, how can the list in front of me get bigger? That's the part that I don't understand. It was 2 years, then it was 3 years, then it's a minimum of 4 years. Like, that's it. That's a minimum you will wait. So I went back to my GP and I asked for right to choose. And I was assessed within 6 weeks. And it was, but again, that threw me, because the assessment process, it was a lot of form filling, and the assessment was an hour long, and I was expecting to have to jump through hoops, to go through different stages. And he said at the end of our appointment, yeah, you meet the criteria and you are autistic. And it was a bit of an anticlimax, like, oh, okay. So now I'm autistic. And that's the last communication I've had. I've had a letter for work to say about reasonable adjustments, and that's it. And it's now like, oh, so I've got my identity, but I don't know what it means yet.
Yeah. I think you covered really nice about how the diagnosis is useful, especially in late diagnosis, as you said, like it's being kinder to yourself. I think
Absolutely.
This is really like highlights how much it is important in the late diagnosis as well, because you have experience from the background, but you are still in here today, but trying to understand what was happened previously.
Yeah.
So in terms of the emotions, we understand that many autistic parents describe challenges with alexithymia, like the naming and sharing the feelings. How do you and your son talk about emotions, and what worked and what hasn't worked?
It's a difficult one because my son was he was late speech, all the rest of it, but he was a very affectionate person. We were very open with our conversations, and growing up, I knew I was different from other people, but I didn't know what it was. I did a lot of reading growing up. That's how I learned about eye contact, that you're supposed to give eye contact, because if you don't, then you're seen as untrustworthy. Or so I'd learned everything I possibly could about how we behave as humans, like a lot of psychology. So I think I had the tools to have those conversations with him. Equally, I've thought about it a lot. So when my son went through his diagnosis, there were things in there that our relationship broke down. He wasn't coping and he stopped talking to us. And one of the things was he thought I was fake. He saw that I would behave differently around other people and thought it was me being fake. And it was only last year I was in the garden and he came out to me. He's 26 now. He came out to me and he said, I've just been reading something on masking. He said, and I get it now. He said, that's what you were doing. And it was a very definite decision that I made when the children were born. I was very young. I was only 20 when I had my daughter, 22 when my son came along. And I forced myself into social situations. I was the first upon the dance floor at the school discos, which was it was the polar opposite of me. But I made myself behave confidently, and I would engage in conversations. I would be part of every project in the school. I would support in classes, that kind of thing. And my son saw me in those social situations, and then he saw me at home and he thought my mum's being fake. But now he understands. So I think we're getting there. I think my son, it's difficult because I'm trying to teach him social acceptability when it's not real for me either. Like I'm teaching him what I've learned, not what I know. It's difficult when he's talking about social situations and he wants to join in the conversation and he says, but I don't know when to jump into the conversation. Like I'm waiting for people to like invite me to speak, and it's like, trying to explain this stuff, you don't get, it's not turn taking. It's about watching for, it's eye contact, it's pauses, it's inference, it's all of these micro gestures and things that you pick up on that you then know when to join a conversation and what's appropriate to say. Trying to teach that to somebody is really hard. So I think we're both getting to know each other again. I think I am trying to, it's difficult being a parent because you're leading by example, and you're trying to shape your children and help them navigate the world. but I'm having to unlearn things that I've learned and then teach that to him. It's hard. It's really hard.
Sounds it.
What were they like? You have to unlearn what you have learned.
Yeah.
So what are these? Could you give some examples?
Trying to fit in. I
Mm.
mirror a lot, and I know I've spoken before about I did a leadership course, and I included this was before diagnosis, but I said, you know, I'm having to look at the way I interact with the world because I'm not being me. I did a survey. I asked for feedback on from people from the team, the wider team, on my management and leadership style. There were different questions in there. I got a different answer from everybody. And that opened my eyes to think, actually, I'm mirroring, I am adapting to each situation dependent on what that person needs from me. My personality, outlook, and response will change. And it's learning how to be myself and not mirroring other people or trying to fit in or behave in the same way that they do. So it's that I'm trying to unlearn. And it's hard because I've been doing it for 49 years. Like that's been a pattern I've followed for 49 years. And now it's going to take a long time. It could take another 49 if I live that long.
Yeah. You're absolutely right about fitting in and the transition, especially. I was just thinking, because we know moving into new school or new life in like high school, the university, or even moving another country or city is a like biggest stress point for families who have the autistic children. So have you navigated like big transition points, and how was it as he's now adult?
Oh, so we moved when my son was 16, and that was really difficult. It doesn't. My son doesn't like having his environment changed at all, even down to. I joke with him. He gets embarrassed when I say to him. He once wrote me a note. I gave him a new chest of drawers for his bedroom because early on I was a single parent for a long time. I'd got him a really cheap set of drawers from IKEA and they were falling apart. And I bought him a solid wood chest of drawers for his clothes and I put it in his bedroom and he was inconsolable. He actually wrote me a note saying that I hadn't taken he must have been 8 at the time. He wrote me a note saying that I hadn't taken his feelings into consideration. I wasn't fit to be a parent. And he drew a picture of skull and crossbones. I've kept that note. I love it. I absolutely love it. I felt dreadful at the time, but I look back on it now and I think, I so took for granted that I didn't realise the impact of even changing a set of drawers for his bedroom would have on him. So moving house was so difficult. It was everything, learning bus routes to college. It was a different room. It was a different temperature. It was what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, you'll have to bear with me. Being 49, I'm also perimenopausal, so my brain goes blank. So it's I want to say standalone. That's not the word. It's like saying arm elbow, isn't it? For arm knee. Sorry, for elbow. Detached. That's the word I'm looking for. A detached house, different temperature. Wasn't as warm as our old house. The carpets were wrong. It was a huge transition and very stressful for both of us. Obviously, I was dealing with my own anxieties around it and trying to support him at the same time. That was not an easy process at all.
I understand. So, how about like the autistic burnout, you have touched it in the previously, but
Yeah.
what does burnout look like you at the very start, and which boundaries or small routes have genuinely reduced it? Do you have any practical tools to navigate it?
I have learned to spot the signs in myself now. So previously, when I've had burnouts, I will continue to push myself and I just get quieter and quieter. And I've had, I mean, I'm lucky in the organisation I work for, they are making huge strides in their understanding of neurodiversity and the steps that they can take. What I've learned to spot the signs myself, I know when I'm reaching capacity and I can't cope, and I know to take time out. And that might be 3 or 4 days off work, just to reset. And also speaking about the fact that I've reached capacity, like I cannot keep going at the pace that I'm going because I will burn out. You have and burnout really frightens me because it removes your ability to mask, because you literally do not have the energy or the focus and attention to cover the real you. So I become very, very quiet, very reclusive, overwhelmed. So yeah, I've learned spot the signs. When I see that coming, cut it off at the pass. Just stop.
Do you feel comfortable now with your diagnosis, or even before your diagnosis, in speaking to your employer about what the signs are for you and how they can accommodate your needs in that?
I'm very open. My son's a bit more reluctant to share with people, and I tried to introduce the sunflower lanyard, and he was not having any of it. I'm very open about it. In my current role, I was asked to lead on our send offer because of my passion about what I'd gone through with my son. I am all about being honest and upfront, and I think it makes you more relatable. One of the things I struggle with is people say about autism having the effect of you don't pick up on other people's emotions or recognize other people's emotions. You absolutely do. You might not be able to to make meaning out of them. You might not know, but you can walk into a room and you will know that something is wrong in that room straight away. I think it gives you great empathy skills. And I can relate to all of the families that walk through our doors. And yeah, it goes a long way to me supporting others, sharing who I am.
Yeah. I think that makes you really valuable in terms of, the kitchen, what is going on in the background.
Yeah.
And then how to also show yourself in front of the people. So moving to the last question, could you leave us with like 3 practical steps, like one tiny change for burnout, one family communication habit, and one sentence someone could use to ask for help tomorrow?
What was the first question again?
Yes, I know. I said like, this question should be very long. So can I have one tiny change for burnout?
Learn the signs, and take a sidestep.
Yeah.
Give yourself the time to decompress, walk away from a situation, and take the time that you need to build resilience. Fill your cup.
Nice.
That was really nice. One family communication habit.
I know it's not possible for all families with experience of autism, but eating at the dinner table at least once a day. if we didn't do that in our house, we wouldn't have family conversations. And I think it's an important tool in conversation skills, turn taking, sharing what's happened during the day. It is really important. And it's, you know, obviously it means cooking something nice, but that is really important. Eat around a table, even if it's not a table, even just in the same space around each other. You share a meal at least once a day so you can debrief, catch up on the day, share concerns, as well as building communication skills.
That applies for everyone. I guess this is
Yeah.
really valuable in terms of creating a family habit.
Yeah.
And one sentence someone could use to ask for help tomorrow.
Very simply, I need help. Like, it is as simple as that. It's starting a conversation, isn't it? And I think it's easier for some people than others. Some people find it harder asking for help. I know I do. That's a trait I've learned in myself. I do not ask for help. I am very self-sufficient, and I will have my managers checking in with me because I don't contact them because I can do it all myself. So yeah, sometimes I think it is just being brave enough to step up, and you don't have to be on the ball all of the time. Just being confident enough to say, I need help, and starting a conversation.
100%. Oh, thank you very much, Jane. That was really useful, I think, in terms of your journey, and also covering how was your navigating the parenting journey as well, and in your professional side too. So it was like very well, good overview. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm so happy that you have attended this podcast. Do you have something to say, Cheryl?
I just really enjoyed listening to you, Jane, because you're just you're just so real and honest and authentic, and it's really important. And I think the frustration lies when neurotypical people are involved in your diagnosis, in your day-to-day, and not having any understanding, and you're having to mask in order to fit in with neurotypical people because we're just all oblivious to everything that's going around. And I just think the importance for people to understand the differences in communication can make such an impact to children from when they're going to school to adults who are in the workplace like yourself.
Yeah.
You know, we just need more understanding.
Absolutely. I think it's difficult because society isn't set up.
No.
For neurodiverse people, it's we have to fit in with everybody else, and it's you have to fit a mold, you have to perform in a certain way to achieve, I think. So and I think it's getting better. I think there's definite improvements, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, that's where we come in.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy, and it will be this sunny day.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.